Why is learning to draw such a daunting and difficult journey to go on? Well, over the past 5 months since I've started this journey of trying to become an artist, a self-taught artist, there's a couple of reasons for this. The first reason for this, I think, is when you first start out and you look up how to draw, how to get better at art, there's an overwhelming amount of information out there. So whether it be, I want to learn how to get better at anatomy, I want to get better at character design, I want to get better at background design, there's just so much to learn. If you do decide on something, you wonder if what you're actually working on and going through is actually going to help get better and it's the most efficient way. If you relate to me, I have a full-time job, I have a wife, you got to cook, you got to clean, exercise, normal living stuff. So maybe you can only devote 1 hour a day approximately, like me. Well, over the past few weeks, I've incorporated a routine that has allowed me to go from drawing things like this to things like this. And although it may seem minimal, the improvement, I think over the next few months, I'm going to see drastic changes in my drawings. These are exercises that I've incorporated from masters like Peter Han, Jung Gi. This routine will help you improve confident lines, thinking in 3D, your spatial awareness and how to rotate objects, and just improve on the fundamentals that are the building blocks to just becoming a better artist and making better drawings. At least this is what I've found so far. All right, so the first thing that I like to do in this hour for 10 minutes is my warm-up. So I start by just making some lines, making sure that I'm doing confident lines, and I just go over them many times, small, medium, large. And then I like to make a row in which I can draw circles. And so this again is just trying to get that mind-muscle connection and make sure I can draw confident circles. You can see here it's a warm-up, so my circles are shaky, even my lines are shaky, but that's okay. It's just a warm-up. It's trying to get that mind-muscle connection, get everything loose, and making sure you're using the right muscles. You want to use your shoulders when you're making the lines, drawing the circles. And then this one, I just make a point and try to cross through that point. And then above, I had 2 points and try to connect them with a line. And I'm just doing that again, just getting warmed up. And then after that warm-up, I like to start practicing forms and basic volumes for about 20 minutes. This is really key if you want to just continue to get better at understanding perspective, just your spatial awareness and how three-dimensional objects move in space. And this is also going to be important if you want to just get better, maybe drawing from imagination, and even just when you're drawing off of references. It's going to be really key so that you can break down those references into understandable objects, simplified forms. So you can see here, I'm starting off with just practicing the cube. Everything can basically be broken down into a cube, so I always try to focus on this first and just make sure that I understand if I'm looking at it from below the horizon line or looking at a cube from above. And then the same thing with cylinders. Cylinders are pretty hard for me, trying to just make sure I do, have good roundness at the top, and then making sure they look solid. And then I move on to spheres, just practicing again, trying to be confident when I make the circle. And then I move on to cones, and then just trying to make sure I find the center and then cut out a slice in one of those cones. So at the bottom here, I'm trying to stack some of those volumes. So you can see here that I stacked a couple cubes, and then I'm drawing some cylinders shooting out of it. And this is just to help again with my intuitiveness for understanding perspective and how those objects fit in 3D space. For the next 5 to 10 minutes, I try to rotate those basic forms and volumes. So I decide on an axis, and then I just try to rotate and make sure that the perspective's good. You can see here I'm still learning. I messed up right there, but that's okay. You can always correct it. And then I just keep moving forward and making sure that I understand how those 3D forms would actually be rotating with proper perspective. So this one, I'm going to rotate kind of around in a circle. So as you can see here, I'm going to just draw multiple, basically, like, I guess you could say they're books. And I'm just going to rotate them around, fanning out all the way around. And again, these exercises are going to be key if you do want to, draw from imagination, even if you ever wanted to make an animation. And this has really been something huge in my routine that's allowed me to just make huge improvements on my drawing and really understand when I'm looking at a reference or I'm just trying to break down something that I see in real life into something manageable and understandable. And because I'm building up that intuitiveness and that understanding of how those objects are rotating in 3D space, it becomes much easier to draw really anything. And then for the remaining time that I have, I like to just look at a reference and then take everything that I was doing in the warm-ups and kind of combine everything together. So you could see here that I have a reference. I've been practicing a lot with Kung Fu poses. I think they're really dynamic and I really enjoy just drawing them. So you can see here that I'm basically doing mannequinization. So I'm doing a cube and I'm trying to make sure as I'm drawing, I'm thinking a lot about the perspective and how I can just break everything down into basic volumes. So you can see the arms, they're just cylinders. The head is just a sphere. And with the head, I'm drawing contour lines to show that the head, he's kind of looking down, or at least we're above the horizon line a little bit. And also, you can see for the legs, I'm just drawing cylinders. The torso is just a cube again, or a box. And really just trying to simplify everything. And this is where that exercise where I was stacking the volumes really helps when I'm drawing this reference here, because now I understand how they can be connected and I'm warmed up and I'm practiced. And once I've figured out the basic volumes, it makes it really easy to draw the contours of everything and just see even how his robe is wrapping around those volumes. I'm adding some clothing, I'm adding more details to the face, and it just even becomes so much easier to add details to the face now that I have set up some of those contour lines and those cross contour lines on the face with believable enough perspective. And I think that's the key. It doesn't have to be perfect and super mathematical, but it just has to be believable. Details for the hands. You can see here that I still need a lot more practice. But overall, with each drawing, it's getting much better. And every time that I draw, I try to think as much as possible and just be very intentional with the line. If you're trying to build an efficient practice routine too, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what's working for you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next update.